Hey guys, George here, and my apologies for the prior video. Seems to be a lot of audio difficulty. I'm going to try one more time to give my reaction to the Player's Aid review of Starter Kit 1, done by the one and only Alexander of the Player's Aid, which I value their opinion. And that's Alexander and Grant, the duo that run this channel, and it seems to be, from my perspective, that they always give a very honest assessment of the pros and cons of each game, and you can always get valuable advice and feedback from them, or information from them in terms of deciding whether to buy the game or not. Yeah, it's like the two guys with a thumbs up and thumbs down in public television when they're reviewing movies. It's the same level, if not higher. So with no further ado, listen guys, I cannot promise you a perfect video. I don't have one of those fancy smanchy square microphones and 4K video, but I think if the audio works, we should be okay. So with no further ado, let's go for it. Let's press the play button. And I'll put on my thinking cap.
So welcome to another wargame review from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're taking a look at Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit 1, Multi-Man Publishing. I think a lot of people are like, oh, finally! Oh, this game. Okay. First off, I'm here on my own because I played this with a friend of ours, Ed, who lives nearby, and he has played a lot of ASL Starter Kit, and I think a lot of ASL as well, and he taught me the game. And I'm very glad that that was the experience that I had, because I think I definitely would have done it wrong digging the rules out myself, because the rules are very dense. They're not very long, but they're very dense. And it's so easy to forget things or to miss things in this game, because there is a lot of steps. And
Two things here, folks. Number one, where is Grant in all of this? Like I said in the prior video, I'm not sure if you got it or not being there with your buddy while they're undergoing the torture of learning Advanced Squad Leader is like sending your wife for birth at the hospital all by her lonesome. Grant, you should have been there alongside Alexander learning this stuff. This is valuable information about how to learn one of the tactical games of all time. But we forgive Grant. We forgive him. Everyone is entitled to make mistakes. However, we're internally grateful to Ed, one of the fellows that lives nearby that plays Advanced Squad Leader. So you can find Advanced Squad Leader players practically all over the world. It's a global game that started out of the United States, but it has grown to be a global phenomenon. Greece, Italy, France, Britain. The game is everywhere. Poland too. Well, I'm sorry I didn't mention any other country. It's going to be a very short video. So that's what I have to say for the beginning of this video. And the resolution just came pretty well back. And let's turn myself on mute and unmute Alexander here.
There's a lot of procedure to it. I say that as a big thanks to Ed for coming over and teaching me this. We played it over the course of about, oh gosh, was it 3 or 4 hours? He'd come over for an hour at lunch break. We'd play for about an hour, do a turn or two, and then I would take a picture of it, we'd set it up again the next week, and do the same thing, back and forth. We did it over the course of about, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. And we played the first scenario in this, and I think that's like the most played scenario of any war game ever, pretty much, it feels like. And it was very interesting to learn this system. And people ask all the time, when are you going to get to ASL? When are you going to get to the ASL starter kits? And I have this, and I have like 2, 3, and 4, and I've got Decision Elst, and I've got a couple packs, and I have like a bunch of ASL boxes as well. And so we've had them for ages, just never got around to like pulling the trigger and sitting down to learn it. I have taken these rule books out and I have started to read them on a number of occasions, and it just never happened. So once again, thanks to Ed for like teaching the game, because
couple of things here to comment on, right? The rules density. That is absolutely true. Now, if you take just a small segment of the rule book, let's take defensive fire. So with defensive fire, you have defensive first fire, defensive final fire, defensive protective fire, and that already takes place in your opponent's movement phase. So that gives you the opportunity to defend yourself against a advancing and encroaching enemy. And then you have defensive fire, which is the opportunity for you as the defender to fire any units you haven't previously defensive first fire, defensive final fire, or defensive final protective fire. So there's 4 levels of defensive fire, all in, I would say, a phase and a half of the game, all concentrated in a about 15-page rulebook. So, with that said, why the density? I'll tell you why. What other game gives you the opportunity to fire on an encroaching enemy? To the point that you're firing so much, to the point that you can potentially break your morale trying to fend off the enemy. That's something unheard of in other games that I may or may not know about. But it gives a little bit of a twist to the game, and also tries to mimic the chaotic behavior of combat. Yeah. Now the other thing that he said that is very encouraging is he has quite a collection of advanced squad leader stuff. And when I first started, I had started with, where is that? That top, second to the top right hand, my left hand, your right hand columns called Squad Leader 1979, the original game, second edition. It came out in the first edition with a purple box and an orange box in the second edition. And subsequently, there's a 4th edition where the rules were corrected. And I also bought Cross of Iron at the same time. About a decade or so later, maybe 15 years later, I had found my first starter kit 1 and starter kit 4. They weren't moving in the toy store where I spotted them on the shelf. And I bought each one about a month apart and kept them in storage and didn't open them up until later on, where I had found myself in a little bit of a life pickle. My life has always been a pickle. And decided to open them up. But not before I had gotten starter kit 2. And before that, I had even bought both Combat Commanders. I got them in the back of my shelf here. Combat Commander and Combat Commander, what is it? Europe and Mediterranean. Yeah. I had gotten actually those games well before my Squad Leader collection, which is quite minute. Quite minute in the sense that I have 3 core modules. I got King and Country, Yanks, and for King and Country, Yanks, and Beyond Valor, right? I'm looking to get Doom Battalions, but not at an exaggerated price set. So Alexander and Grant actually have more modules than I do. So that looks like it's, despite the expression on his face, that looks quite promising that he has been bitten by the bug, and he will continue the ASL route to some extent. I hope. Because there are a lot of hassles that are coming out that will give everyone an opportunity to get a taste of the game. So for those that don't like geomorphic map boards, and like castle maps instead, I think there's more to come in that direction. Let's continue with Grant. So I'm going to put myself on mute again and continue.
If he hadn't, I don't think it was ever going to happen. I had tried a number of times and it just wasn't going to happen. So, Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit 1. Not to be mistaken with Advanced Squad Leader. Advanced Squad Leader is its own game with massive boxes with whole orders of battles of armies that has like the 300-page rules binder. That's not what this is. This is the Squad Leader, Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kits. And there's 4 or 5 of them in the series. Each of them has a bunch of missions in it. It's almost its own separate game system. Even though they have very similar systems, you can do just the starter kits and get a bunch of those, and you're going to have a great time. If that's what you're into, obviously. So this is if you don't know, this is a 2-player hex encounter tactical World War II game. One of you plays like the Germans or the Russians, and the other side plays the US or the British or whatever else boxes that you've got. In this one, we played Americans and Germans.
I'm going to stop there. I got the ASO rulebook. 300 pages. I think we're thinking about the famous 300 Spartans that put up a good battle against the Persians. I'm nowhere close to 300 pages. We have 26 pages for Chapter A, 34 for Chapter B. That makes what, 50, 60? Ordnance is another 13, 16 for vehicles, 12 for miscellaneous. Am I right or am I wrong here? We're talking about sections here. Let's take a look. Oh, well, maybe a little bit more than that. Chapter A has about 50 pages. So maybe Grant is right. And Chapter B is another 44, including footnotes. Okay, maybe he's right. 26 for Chapter C. $24, $25. But you don't have to read them from start to finish. There's a certain order. Now, for the 300 pages or so, the Q&A, probably you're looking at that. So yes, there is quite a bit of a volume, but the trick is read Chapter A and B, and then Chapter C for Ordnance, and Chapter D, E for the special weather and other weapons. And then you don't necessarily have to read the North African rules or PTO. You can do that at a later time. So, he isn't exaggerating. It does seem voluminous to a beginner, but when you break it down in sections, you can get past the hurdles. And the reason why I took that approach in reading the ASL rulebook is because in the original game of Squad Leader, everything was taught modularly. Now I'm going to jump ahead. I'm going to jump the Player's Aid video ahead to see an example of gameplay. And here we go. Forgive me for the lag.
They have a movement factor and they have a morale factor. No, we don't use the middle number in this game. I think we don't use the middle number. I can't remember. And but the far right number is their morale value. You got to roll that number. You got to roll under that number when you make morale checks. I think they said the middle number we never used, and it looks like it would be a movement factor, but it's not. because movement in ASL is it's generically dealt with. So there's kind of movement points and movement factors through terrain. That's what you would expect. However, how much you can move depends on what kind of units you are and if you've got leaders. So if it's just a regular unit, they're going to get, there's some carrying capacities or portage points. But generally speaking, a regular infantry squad can move 4 spaces. What they can do is that they can CX, which stands for something, but I don't remember what it is. They can move further. So if you get CX, you can move an extra 2 spaces, so you can move 6 spaces. And CXing is important because you might want to move further across the map to get yourself into combat, depending on where you've come in for reinforcements, or you might want to get out of the way. But CXing means that in close combat, you are worse and the enemy is better. And also, it means that infantry firing.
Here's something important to note, okay? Alexander and Grant usually play strategic level games or battalion and up. And when you're dealing with large units and you're dealing with different unit types, for example, armor, mechanized infantry, you typically have the movement factors written on the counter, meaning leg movement, X number of moves, in which you move the counter and count down the movement cost that you've expended. Then you have mechanized infantry, which typically should have greater movement factors than leg movement. And then armor movement, well, depending on the mechanized force, the quality of the armor, they will be your cavalry charge, in other words, where they will have a longer amount of movement or a bigger length of movement. Now, you're dealing with a tactical level game here. So typically the average man travels 5 miles per hour. The hex is about 40 meters. That's where we get the 4 movement factors, as opposed to movement points. Points are for vehicles, factors are for infantry. You're moving along with the leader. Hey, the leader is there to motivate you. You're running fast, or you're moving more quicker with a lot more enthusiasm with the leader. You get 6 hex movement, or 6 factors, and you pay a cost appropriately for difficult terrain or for terrain that's not as open as open ground. So that's why typically we don't have the movement factors printed on the infantry counter. We do have them on vehicles, and different vehicles, depending on their speed, would have different movement points printed on the counter. So having said that, it makes perfect sense. Now, of course, if you're dealing with a lot of rules in your head, you will get mixed up, and you will have doubts, and you will have to do some rulebook dives just to refresh your memory. That's what's happening to Alexander here is perfectly normal. You should expect that to happen. Even I, that I've played 3 different rule sets, perhaps, not counting OCS, because I've pretty much have OCS in the back of my mind, but I'm currently reading GTS and a couple of other things. From time to time, hey, amnesia kicks in. We got a rule book, but the rule book has an index. You look up the concept, you reread the rule, and you learn as you go. And sometimes you have to relearn them. The more you practice a war game, the better you get at it. But here, Grant didn't do a bad job at all. He actually did a very good job. And if he wasn't under the stress of doing a video, I think he could have quickly picked off on the quick reference card that the middle number is actually range. Simple as that. Nothing overwhelming. But again, Grant took off. Where the heck is Grant? Grant should have been in the thick of it. Oh well, let's forgive Grant. What else shall we do? We'll move the video a little bit ahead. We're running 20 minutes into the video. The original video is not more than 25-32 minutes. So I'll move the video ahead on my end. Listen to what Grant has to say. And all this under fair use, guys. I don't want any copyright infringements. So let's see.
Even though it's a 12-page rulebook, it's still pretty dense. I know that was a long kind of explanation, but what we'll do is wrap up with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the board and, again, a little bit of how it works. The rulebook's not even that big, but there's so much packed into it that it's kind of hard to show everything. But again, I had a really enjoyable time with Ed playing this, and it was cool to learn a system that's so famous and so beloved. But I'm also grown up enough to say that it's not for me, and I will probably keep this, but I might sell the other ones in my collection because I know I'm just never going to get to them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean it's a bad system. Doesn't mean that like, oh, everyone's unsubscribing now. It's pretty funny. And I don't dislike, it doesn't make my opinion change of people who love this system. I can absolutely appreciate why people would. But I think I prefer other games at this scale, and generally speaking, I think I prefer games at different scales. And so all of my ASL stuff takes up a lot of shelf space, and knowing now, having kind of dipped my toe even a little bit, I know I'm never going to play all of that. It's never going to be something that I actually get to, just as a function of what we do here at the Player's Aid and how much space I've got on my shelves. So I think I'm going to part ways with most of it. I'm going to keep some of it. I'll keep this box for sure, because if I do revisit it, it'll probably be this. I might keep Decision at Elst because it's got some British in it and it has some armor and stuff. So one day if I want to do that, I can. But for me personally, it just didn't awaken that joy that I get from other systems. And this system isn't unique in not doing that for me. We've played a bunch of tactical systems, and some of them are just fine. They're just okay, or like, this is good, but not.
So a couple of comments about that. It was a bit discouraging to hear that that Alexander will sell most of his ASL stuff. I'm pretty sure, though, in selling whatever he has, if it's in good condition, he'll make a killing. Probably will be able to buy a nice Rolex that's on the low end of the price scale, or a nice watch, an analog watch, a luxury watch. This system is quite expensive, especially when it gets out of print, and people are looking to get $600 to $800 for a module. So in selling some of his collection, he'll probably be well off, more better off than how the market is performing right now. I keep saying that across the board, but there's more to advanced Gwalior than meets the eye. Personally, the few modules that I have, I am in the same predicament as he is. I don't think I'll be able to play all of them in a lifetime. But I'll do my best. I'll do my best, but I do also enjoy other hobbies like modeling and cooking. I enjoy cooking for my two boys, and I've been cooking for them on my lonesome for over a decade right now. And they do enjoy my food, and I have some food videos. And the other thing he said is it's not for me. And that's perfectly natural. You cannot expect everybody to like the system. And this system is not for everybody, just like there are other games that you can safely say that, hey, not for me. Now, having said that, I may have had some games on my shelf that I do regret getting, but I won't mention their names. Too bad. No negativity here, but honesty, sure. Um, so, selling, we covered that. Not for me, we covered that. But I'll tell you also a little secret. There are some scenarios that I play and I said, what the heck is this all about? But there are other scenarios that are classics that I like to play over and over and over again without fail. Um, yeah, and then about the British. Well, the British and Canadians are one of my favorite sides to play. And if you are a fan of Canadian slash British slash Commonwealth history, this is the game you got to play. If you're into Polish history, the Balkan Wars, and I don't consider Greece part of the Balkans, but if you are a fan of Operation Mercury and Marita, which is the invasion of Greece, that is something to think about. If you're a fan of Leros, again, this is it. If you're a fan of the Battle of the Bulge, this is definitely the game for you. Now, having said that, having watched the Player's Aid video on Starter Kit, I have to congratulate Grant on a well-made video, and I think that at the end of the day, he has been bitten by the ASL bug, and we will see more videos about Advanced Squad Leader from the Player's Aid. With that said, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you to all the folks that commented about the horrible audio on the previous video. My apologies go out to you once again. Thank you for your undaunted support for all the subscribers that have been with the channel from the beginning and more recent. Thank you for watching. I know that your time is valuable, and some of you have stuck through an hour-long video, and I thank you all for that. I really appreciate the encouragement. Like and subscribe, but not only for me, but all the other channels in the hobby. Do so as well, because this hobby is so misunderstood. Most of us are just history buffs. We're not sympathetic to any devious and diabolical team, and most of us as well are peace-loving people, and that's why we choose to study war through a cardboard and paper rather than going out there and trying to do stupid things. So with that said, guys and ladies, take care. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.